The F-22 Raptor is designed to operate as one of the United States Air Force's most advanced air superiority fighters. But even a highly capable aircraft depends on something much more basic: fuel. In a region as vast as the Indo-Pacific, the ability to keep fighter aircraft supplied can become just as important as the aircraft's speed, sensors, or stealth. That is why U.S. Air Force experiments involving forward refueling of the F-22 have attracted attention. However, there's an important detail that should not be overlooked. These demonstrations are not a brand new 2026 development. The Air Force has been testing and refining forward refueling concepts for the F-22 for years. One of the clearest demonstrations took place during Exercise Stealth Guardian in August 2017. During the exercise, two F-22 Raptors from the 95th Fighter Squadron received fuel through a Forward Area Refueling Point, or FARP, supplied by an HC-130J Combat King II. The exercise was designed to simulate deployed and contingency environments where traditional support infrastructure might not be available. The significance of that demonstration was not simply that an F-22 received fuel in an unusual location. The larger idea was flexibility. Instead of depending entirely on conventional airbase with extensive infrastructure, the Air Force wanted to explore ways of supporting the F-22 from locations with a smaller logistical footprint. That concept matters particularly in the Indo-Pacific. The region covers enormous distances, and military planners have increasingly emphasized the importance of operating from multiple locations rather than relying on a small number of major bases. If aircraft can be supported from more austere locations, commanders potentially have more options for positioning aircraft and sustaining operations. This does not mean that a forward refueling demonstration suddenly gives the F-22 unlimited range. It does not eliminate the need for air bases, tankers, maintenance crews, spare parts, weapons, communications, or other support systems. Instead, it represents one piece of a much larger effort to make combat aviation more flexible. The 2017 Stealth Guardian exercise provides a useful example. According to the Air Force, an HC-130J was used to provide fuel to F-22s through a forward area refueling point when conventional fueling stations or air-to-air refueling options were not available. The F-22s landed, received fuel and weapons, and returned to operations. The exercise also demonstrated something important about modern military operations. Logistics can determine how useful an aircraft is. An aircraft may have impressive range and performance, but if it cannot receive fuel, ammunition, maintenance, or other support at the right location, its operational flexibility can be limited. Forward refueling attempts to address part of that problem by bringing fuel closer to the aircraft rather than requiring the aircraft to return to a large permanent base. Years later, the Air Force continued exploring similar ideas in the Indo-Pacific. In March 2023, the Pacific Air Forces reported that F-22 Raptors operating from Tinian participated in Exercise Agile Reaper 23-1. During the exercise, C-17 Globemaster III aircraft transported fuel from Andersen Air Force Base, Guam, to Tinian. The fuel was transferred into our 11 refueling trucks and subsequently used to refuel the F-22s. The details of that exercise are particularly interesting because the Air Force deliberately worked with limited resources. Instead of relying on large fuel storage bladders and a large number of personnel, the exercise used a smaller team and our 11 refueling vehicles. C-17 aircraft delivered more than 12,000 gallons of fuel to Tinian during the exercise, where the fuel was processed and checked before being supplied to the F-22s. This was part of the broader Agile Combat Employment concept. Agile Combat Employment focuses on the ability to distribute aircraft and support personnel across multiple locations and operate with fewer resources at each individual site. The objective is not simply to move aircraft around for the sake of movement. It is about creating more options and reducing dependence on a single large operating location. For the F-22, that can be particularly valuable. The Raptor is a sophisticated fifth-generation fighter, and operating away from a major base requires much more than simply landing the aircraft on a runway. Fuel quality, maintenance, weapon support, communication, security, spare parts, and personnel all have to be considered. The Tinian exercise demonstrated how even something as routine as refueling becomes more complicated when aircraft operate from a location with limited infrastructure. Fuel has to arrive. It has to be stored or transferred. Its quality has to be checked. Appropriate equipment has to be available. Personnel must be trained to conduct the operation safely. And the entire process is to work quickly enough to support aircraft operations. The Air Force specifically highlighted fuel quality procedures during the 2023 exercise. Personnel conducted laboratory checks for factors, including water content, and particulate contamination before the fuel was used in F-22 aircraft. The fuel also went through filtration processes before reaching the fighters. That detail might not sound as dramatic as an F-22 taking off at high speed, but reveals the reality behind expeditionary air operations. Keeping a fifth-generation fighter flying from a remote location is a logistical challenge, and that is why forward refueling should not be viewed simply as a trick for extending the F-22's flying distance. It is better understood as part of a broader system designed to help the aircraft operate from locations that may not have the infrastructure of a major airbase. This distinction is important because headlines can easily make the capability sound more dramatic than it actually is. A headline saying that the Air Force has just discovered a way to dramatically extend the F-22's range would be misleading. The Air Force demonstrated F-22 forward area refueling as early as 2017, and later exercises continued to explore expeditionary, refueling, and sustainment concepts. What is genuinely interesting is how these concepts fit into the changing operational environment. The Indo-Pacific presents a unique challenge because distances between potential operating locations can be enormous. Major bases remain important, but military planners also want the ability to use smaller or more dispersed locations when necessary. That creates a simple question. What happens if an advanced fighter can operate from a location that was not designed to support a large fighter force for an extended period? Full refueling is one possible answer. Instead of requiring every location to have the full infrastructure of a permanent fighter base, the Air Force can explore ways to bring essential resources to the aircraft. That does not make a remote location equivalent to a major air base. It simply gives commanders another option. For the F-22, flexibility can be especially important because the aircraft is intended to provide air superiority and protect other forces. Its value is not limited to how far it can physically fly. Its operational usefulness also depends on where it can be positioned and how quickly it can be supported. This is where the idea of a distributed force becomes important. If aircraft are concentrated at one large base, that base becomes an obvious logistical center. If operations can be distributed among several locations, an adversary may face greater uncertainty about where aircraft will operate. However, dispersion also creates challenges. Every additional operating location requires personnel, equipment, communications, fuel, maintenance capabilities, security, and transportation. Dispersing aircraft can therefore make an operation more complicated rather than simpler. The 2023 Tinian exercise demonstrated this reality. The Air Force had to establish a system for transporting fuel, receiving it, checking its quality, filtering it, and transferring it to the F-22s. The process was designed specifically to test how the Air Force could sustain sortie generation with limited resources. In other words, the real innovation was not simply the refueling truck. It was the ability to create a functioning logistics chain in a location with fewer resources. That lesson can apply well beyond the F-22. Modern air forces increasingly recognize that future operations may require aircraft to move between locations, operate with smaller support teams, and make use of infrastructure that is less robust than a traditional air base. The F-22 provides a useful example because of its advanced capabilities and the importance of keeping such aircraft available for missions. The Air Force's earlier Stealth Guardian exercise also showed how forward refueling could be combined with the Rapid Raptor concept. Rapid Raptor was intended to demonstrate the ability to rapidly deploy F-22 assets into combat or contingency environments. The forward refueling capability added another layer of flexibility to that concept. The combination is significant because rapid deployment is only useful if aircraft can subsequently be supported. Imagine an F-22 arriving at a remote location quickly. The aircraft may have enough fuel to conduct its initial mission, but eventually it needs to refuel. If the location lacks conventional fueling infrastructure, the force needs another solution. That is where FARP becomes relevant. The concept essentially creates a temporary refueling capability closer to the aircraft's operating location. But there's another important point. Forward refueling does not necessarily mean the aircraft itself is receiving fuel directly from another aircraft in the air. The 2017 F-22 demonstration involved an HC-130J Combat King II, providing fuel through a forward area refueling point on the ground. The 2023 Tinian exercise used C-17 aircraft to deliver fuel to the island, where refueling trucks supported the F-22s. Understanding this distinction makes the story much more accurate.
Alpha, our torch is established at 17K in the block.